All right. So you want to learn to code. Huh.
That's the question, isn't it?
I think it is.
Yeah.
We're diving into this Fireship YouTube video, and man, this guy really gets into the real truths about what it takes to learn to code.
Yeah, I think what struck me about this video is like it really tackles this hard work versus talent debate head on. It's very refreshing. A lot of what we see online is, really focuses on this kind of rock star coder myth, which can be very discouraging for beginners, honestly.
Yeah, it's kind of like when I was learning guitar, I thought I could, just play a few chords and I'd be like Jimi Hendrix or something.
Yeah.
And it's just like reality hits, hours of practice and sore fingertips. And,
Yeah.
the truth is that mastering anything takes dedicated effort.
Exactly. Yeah, and coding's no different. And Fireship really like emphasizes, embracing the suck. That initial phase where everything feels like super difficult and you just feel like, why am I even doing this? I suck at this.
Yeah, he actually compares it to like learning a musical instrument or juggling. Like, you have those initial bursts of progress
Right.
where you're like, wow, I'm getting this. And then you just hit a wall and you're like,
Totally.
man, I'm back at square one.
Yeah, it's a cycle that every coder goes through,
Yeah.
no matter how experienced you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's so true. So really it's about like building that resilience, understanding that setbacks are just part of the learning process.
It is.
And that, I think, that shift in perspective where you see those moments as opportunity for growth rather than giving up, it's like, that's so key.
It is.
And that actually ties into what Fireship talks about, in terms of choosing a programming language, which he actually says doesn't really matter as much as people think.
Yeah, he does. While there are some languages that are better suited for specific tasks, he argues that like the core concepts of programming are universal. It's really about understanding problem solving, algorithms, logic. And those are skills that you can transfer to any language.
Yeah, and he has this one part in the video where he's talking about how he learned Ruby.
Right?
And he got fairly proficient.
Yeah.
And then, years later, he's like, I forgot all this.
You forgot it all, yeah.
He's like, I don't even know Ruby anymore.
And the point is that it's not really about memorizing the syntax. It's more about developing this ability to think like a programmer, which is a very valuable skill.
That's really interesting because, like, it makes me wonder then, what are those skills? Like, if the specific language isn't the be-all, end-all,
Right.
then what are some concrete examples that, they're truly valuable for, for someone learning to code?
Well, during technical interviews, a lot of times employers focus more on how you approach a problem, like how you break down the problem into smaller steps, and how you communicate your thought process.
Oh,
It's really less about the specific code that you write
gotcha.
and more about your problem-solving ability.
So it's not just about becoming like this code writing machine.
Right.
It's like you become a problem-solving ninja or something.
Absolutely. And this really ties in with his emphasis on active learning.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just like passively watch tutorials and read books. You have to get your hands dirty and actually write code.
He has this great line where he says, turn off YouTube and code. I love that.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy, especially like nowadays, to just constantly be consuming
Right.
all this information, but never actually doing anything.
It's like imagine reading a cookbook, You know the ingredients and you know the steps, but until you apply that knowledge, you're not really learning.
That's so true. And actually, he even calls out his own platform, Fireship Pro,
Yes, he does.
which is, packed with learning resources. But he still stresses that, like, the active practice
Right.
is more important than passive consumption.
It's about taking those concepts and putting them into practice.
Right. So what are some effective ways to get that hands-on experience?
Yeah, so he mentions a few avenues that can really solidify your skills and help you build that confidence. And I think one of the things he mentions is personal projects, which allow you to work on something that you're passionate about, tackle real-world problems, and actually build a portfolio.
Oh, okay. So it's not just like
Right.
doing these abstract
Exactly.
like exercises.
It's about like creating something tangible, something that you can be proud of.
Yeah, I like that.
So that's one. And then he also recommends coding challenges, which offer a structured way to practice specific skills.
Right.
And you can get feedback on your code. So it's kind of like a mental workout for your coding muscles.
Oh, I like that. So you can.
Yeah. There are hackathons, which are events where teams collaborate intensely to build a project within a limited time frame.
I always thought hackathons were like
Yep.
for really experienced coders.
Yeah.
Like you have to be
Yeah.
like super good.
There are a lot of hackathons that are actually designed specifically for beginners.
Oh,
So it's an amazing opportunity to learn from others and to gain experience working on a team.
wow. So whether you're building a passion project, doing these coding challenges, or going to hackathons, the key takeaway is like step away from the screen
Yeah,
and start writing.
absolutely. And this is where it gets really interesting. So he brings up this technique that can really help you solidify your understanding,
Okay.
which is called the Feynman technique.
I've heard of that, but it always sounds very intimidating.
Yeah.
It's like something for geniuses.
It is actually surprisingly simple and can be incredibly effective even for beginners.
Okay.
And the basic premise is that the best way to learn something is to teach it. Oh, okay. Yeah, it makes sense. Like if you can explain it to someone else,
Right.
then you probably really get it.
Absolutely. And the Feynman technique breaks this down into 4 steps.
Oh, okay. So break it down for me.
So the first is you choose a concept that you want to learn, and you write it down at the top of a piece of paper. The second step is you try to explain this concept as if you were teaching it to a 12-year-old. So you have to use really simple language. You can't use any jargon. And the act of simplifying forces you to really grasp the core ideas.
So it's like that famous Einstein quote, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Something like that.
Exactly, yeah. And as you're explaining this concept, you'll probably hit points where you get stuck.
Yeah.
Or you realize, oh, I don't actually fully understand this.
Right.
And so that's where the third step comes in. It's identifying the gaps in your knowledge.
So it's about like almost admitting, okay, I don't actually know this part.
Yeah.
Which can be hard, especially when you're first starting out. You feel like, oh, I should know everything.
Yeah.
But it's crucial to embrace those moments because those are really the moments where you can grow.
It's like turning a weakness into like
Right.
an opportunity.
And the final step is all about refining and organizing your knowledge. So you go back to your original explanation, fill in the gaps that you identified, and you try to make it even more clear and concise.
So it's really this iterative process.
Yes,
This is-
where you're constantly refining your understanding and making it more accessible, not just for others, but also for yourself.
I like that. Okay, so we've got this Feynman technique.
Right.
But like, let's be honest.
Yeah,
Learning to code can be a roller coaster of emotions.
it is.
You have moments where you're excited,
Right.
you feel like you're getting it,
Yeah.
and then there are times when you just want to give up.
You want to throw in the towel.
How do you stay motivated through those tough parts?
Right. That's a great question. And luckily, Fireshift actually has some great insight on how to hack your brain for motivation and how to turn coding into something that you actually enjoy.
Okay, well, we're going to save that
You're going to save
for the next segment.
for next time.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Right back. So we were talking about how learning to code can be such an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
So let's dive into some of these tips that Fireshift had on how to actually stay motivated.
Yeah, I'm all ears because, like, I think motivation is so key to sticking with anything.
Yeah.
Especially something that's hard, like, like learning to code.
Yeah.
What's the secret? How do we do it?
So he talks about, he highlights the power of what he calls small wins.
Go ahead.
Those little bursts of progress that give you that feeling of like, yes, I did it.
Gotcha. So instead of like focusing on this big, massive end goal,
Right.
like building this huge app,
Yeah.
you break it down into like these smaller,
Right.
manageable
Yeah.
tasks.
Precisely.
Right.
Like imagine you're training for a marathon. You wouldn't go out and run 26 miles your first day.
Right.
No, you start with
You start small.
you start small
Yeah,
and you gradually increase the mileage over time.
that's a good analogy.
Yeah. So what do those small wins look like when you're coding?
Yeah, like what would that be?
Well, it could be anything from successfully compiling your code for the first time
Okay.
to like, fixing a bug that's been plaguing you for hours.
Yeah.
Each of those small wins triggers this release of dopamine in your brain,
Uh-huh.
which reinforces that positive feeling of accomplishment
Gotcha.
and motivates you to keep going.
Oh, I see. So it's like a positive feedback loop,
Exactly.
where the hard work leads to the reward, which then like fuels more hard work.
Precisely.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
And it's about celebrating those little milestones,
Right.
no matter how small they may seem.
I love that. So we got the small wins. Any other like motivational hacks?
Well, he also emphasizes the importance of finding what truly excites you within the world of coding.
Okay.
If you're passionate about a particular project or area of technology, the learning process just becomes way more enjoyable and
Yeah.
rewarding.
That makes sense, because then it's not just like, I'm forcing myself
Right.
to learn this because I think I should.
Right. Yeah.
It's more like,
Right.
I'm really interested in this.
Right.
I want to know more about this.
Precisely. It doesn't have to be something grand or complex,
Yeah.
It could be as simple as wanting to build a website for your favorite band
Yeah.
or creating a game that you've always imagined playing.
I feel like that's where people get hung up a lot,
Yeah.
you know?
It's like you need to have this grand vision,
Yeah.
this world-changing idea before you even start.
And it's so not true. Like, the thing I've noticed is that it's just like,
It's about finding those little sparks.
yeah, those sparks of excitement.
Yeah, and letting them guide you.
Right.
And, passion is contagious, too. Oh, yeah.
If you're excited about what you're building, that enthusiasm is going to shine through.
Yeah.
And it might even inspire other people. you know?
Yeah, totally. So you've got all this passion, you've
Yeah.
got all this motivation,
Right.
but there's still going to be those times, right, where you hit a wall,
Oh, yeah.
and you feel like you're not making progress.
Totally.
What does he say about that?
Well, he actually tells this funny story
Okay.
about pulling all-nighters,
Oh, yeah.
trying to fix a bug,
Yeah.
only to, like, finally figure it out after
Yeah.
taking a break and getting some sleep.
Oh, I've been there. Like, sometimes you just got to,
You just got to step away.
yeah.
Let your subconscious kind of work its magic.
Totally, totally.
Right. It's a great reminder that coding isn't just about raw effort,
Yeah.
It's also about knowing when to take breaks
Right.
and allow your brain to recharge.
He calls it, like, mental spacing,
Yes.
right? Like, your brain needs time to
Right.
process the information.
And make connections, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. So it's about working smarter, not harder.
Yes, precisely.
Right.
And in the long run, taking care of your mental and physical well-being
Yeah.
will make you a more productive and effective coder.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And he actually has this funny line where he says
Right.
something like, you can't code on an empty stomach.
Yeah. It sounds silly, but it highlights a serious point. You have to fuel your body and mind
Yeah.
if you want to perform at your best.
So it's not just about, like, the actual coding part. It's like, you got to take care of yourself.
Yes.
Right. Like, you got to make sure you're eating, sleeping enough,
Exactly.
getting some exercise.
Yeah. Okay.
And then he has this one tip
Okay.
where he says, and. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek,
Okay.
but he's like, just Google it.
Yeah. I laughed when I heard that.
Yeah.
But then I was like, he's so right.
Yeah.
Like, as a software engineer, you're constantly,
You're learning.
you're learning.
You're hitting new challenges.
New problems.
You're like, how do I solve this?
Right. And the ability to effectively search for information
Yeah.
and find solutions is so critical.
It's like having this whole world of knowledge at your fingertips. But with so much information online,
Right.
how do you know what's reliable? Like, are there any tips
Yeah.
for navigating this sea of resources?
That's a great question. And that's something we should definitely delve into further.
Yeah.
But I think before we do that, we should kind of step back and look at the bigger picture here. We've talked about a lot.
Yeah, we have.
We talked about the importance of hard work, problem solving, the power of motivation, mental spacing,
Yeah.
even leveraging those resources like Google. It's like we've been given this incredible toolkit for learning to code,
We have.
and now it's up to us to figure out how to actually use it effectively.
That's so true. So what do we do?
That brings us to the most important question of all. What are you going to build?
That's the question, right? What am I going to build? So it's like so exciting, but also kind of scary.
It's like, you're standing at the foot of this mountain. You're ready to start climbing.
Right.
You've got all the gear, the training, but the journey's still ahead of you.
Yeah. And Fireship talks about that, finding that thing that really excites you, like that spark
Right.
that makes you want to, really get into a project. And I feel like that's the thing that helps you push through, like when you hit those rough patches, you're like, ugh, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
But if you're passionate about it,
Yeah.
you're going to keep going.
Absolutely. When you're really passionate about something, the challenges just become,
Yeah.
there's these puzzles you're excited to solve.
Totally. But
Yeah.
what if you don't know? Like, what if you're like me and you have all these ideas,
Yeah.
but you're not sure which one to go with?
Right.
Any tips for, like,
Yeah, I think it's less about finding this perfect idea and more about just starting somewhere.
Right.
Pick something, anything that sparks your interest.
Okay.
And commit to like exploring it further.
Gotcha.
And it doesn't have to be something like super grand or complex.
Right.
It could be as simple as like building a tool to automate a task, or a small game, or even a website to showcase your favorite hobby.
I like that. It takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
Instead of like waiting for this aha moment.
Yeah, just dive in and see where it leads.
Dive in. I like that.
And the process of building and experimenting and problem solving will really help you clarify your interests.
Okay.
And you'll discover what actually motivates you. You might even surprise yourself with what you're capable of creating.
That's awesome. So it's about embracing the journey, right?
Yeah.
And just like trusting the process and learning along the way.
Absolutely, yeah. And remember all those tools that we talked about. The small wins, the mental spacing, leveraging resources like Google, even the Feynman technique. It's all there to support you.
It's like having this like support system,
Yeah.
right, to guide you through those rough patches. But then there's also that fear, right? Like that fear of failure, especially when you're starting out.
Yeah.
What do you say to someone who's like just feeling intimidated by all of it?
I think embrace those feelings. Fear is a natural part of stepping outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
But instead of letting it paralyze you, use it as fuel.
Okay.
And just remember that every expert coder started as a beginner.
Right.
Fumbling their way through lines of code, feeling that same sense of overwhelm.
Oh, yeah.
So, you're not alone. And the beauty of the coding community is you don't have to do this by yourself.
Yeah. There's so many resources out there.
There are so many online forums, communities, and resources where you can connect with other coders, ask questions, get feedback, share your struggles, celebrate your wins. It's all there.
Awesome. So it sounds like, to sum up this deep dive, it's like embrace the hard work.
Yes.
Find that thing that excites you.
Yes.
Celebrate the small wins. Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Ask for help.
And just start building.
Yeah. And remember, the most important project you'll ever build is yourself.
I love that. This has been a great deep dive. I'm feeling inspired.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to start my own coding journey. Thank you for joining.